Sometimes it feels like just as everything's beginning to go right, the world dictates that it's too good. Something must go wrong. I have a vivid memory of being no more than 6 years old and having heartbreaking feelings of grayness. I had realized that I associated a color with everyone and everything in my life. My mom was purple, my dad was green. Everyone around me was vibrant. So I decided to test this theory on myself, see how I envisioned myself. And all I could come up with was a wispy gray. This grayness stayed with me throughout the day, and I remember crying in my room later. The memory of that day, that moment, returned to me often as I grew older, but I just passed it off as kind of an odd occurrence. I think most teens can relate to these who am I feelings, this existential angst. We're filled to the brim with unexpressed emotions and hormones as we go through adolescence, and sometimes it gets really confusing. We're forced into this rigorous schedule. Get up at 6:30 every morning, raise your hand to go to the restroom, get enough sleep, do your homework, and suddenly it's time to make our own decisions. What do we want to do with the rest of our lives? These feelings were hitting me pretty hard by the time I was in middle school. I was weaving my way through school in my Abercrombie jeans and Uggs, and I was following the status quo, so to speak. So I hit high school, and I decided that maybe it was possible to break from the norm, that maybe the girl who doodled Harry Styles' name in her journals and mindlessly listened to top 40 music just wasn't me. So I bought a sketchbook and pens. I started sifting through thrift stores instead of scanning the racks of Forever 21. I started exploring alternative music and art. I found that music in particular could dramatically affect my mood in a really beautiful way. So I started going to lots of concerts. I started making playlists for my friends and sketching as a way to center myself when I was stressed. This past summer, I decided to really step from my comfort zone and take my growing sense of self to a whole new level. I applied to be an intern at a website called Style Like You that profiles really cool and eccentric individuals' stories and confronts issues like body image and feminism. I was accepted and I was psyched. I bought my tickets and I anxiously awaited my first day. I left their website open on my computer at all times and I reloaded it every single morning. So my summer began, and I was having these blossoming feelings of security and a sort of resting happiness, as opposed to the unsureness I was used to. I remember lying on the hammock at my grandfather's house and describing these new feelings to my mother, telling her how I was starting to feel that I really knew myself. It felt so good and so weird to be able to say something like that and actually believe it. My newfound contentedness plummeted when my uncle passed away the very next day. He'd been sick for a long time, and we all knew it was coming, but no amount of time can prepare someone for something that difficult, that finite. My whole family was in a state of shock and helplessness. The day after that, my dog, my 10th birthday present, and my constant companion ran out into the street and was suddenly hit by a car. Nothing made sense. To me, it just seemed so unfair. I know that these feelings were selfish, but I associated what happened with the way I'd been feeling. She was gone in the blink of an eye. It was so unfair. Why was I being punished for trying to be myself, for being happy? I shut down. I have diary entries from those whirlwind few days, scrawled and hardly legible. I described my feelings of emptiness and confusion, the sensation of the ground falling out from beneath me. I couldn't sit down without feeling like I was sinking further and further, couldn't stand up without feeling dizzy. I decided that it was best to continue my summer and to head to New York. It was good for me to be somewhere that felt like home without holding so many memories. I was staying with my beloved granny, who I visited there multiple times yearly throughout my life. For the first few days of my stay, I tried to shut it out. I listened to my music turned all the way up, and I tried to amuse myself with trivial things. I went for walks down Broadway often, but I kept my head down. I wasn't allowing myself to feel, and I was on the brink of tears a lot. It was terrible. I felt almost as if I was back in my Abercrombie and Uggs, afraid of what people would feel and think of the true me. The grayness had seeped back into my mind, and I felt that it was in danger of turning into darkness, into blackness. So I was on the subway one morning, and I was finding that it was harder than usual to shut out the emotions. So I allowed myself to think about it, and I cried. And it was kind of embarrassing to be crying on the subway. But let's be honest, I'm pretty sure all authentic New Yorkers have probably had that experience. So there I was, no longer 6 years old, but having the same churning feelings of nothingness. But afterwards, I swept my hair out of my face, looked around at the people around me who probably couldn't have cared less about my tears, and I felt refreshed. Like even just for the day, I could move forward without my loved one's absence being so undeniably present. For the next few weeks, the need to just be would come to me at random times, and I allowed myself to feel more and more. I started to recover. I became incredibly inspired by my internship and by the city, helping with video shoots, keeping my head up as I walked down the street, doing scouting for them. I claimed a couple cafes close to the TEDxYouth loft as my own. One for my smoothie every morning before work, one for lunch every day. I became a face of the Lower East Side, and it was kind of awesome, if only for a few short weeks. So I found that it was easy to channel my never-ending emotions into passion as I worked. I would get goosebumps endlessly as we shot people for the website, and I experienced everything that I felt, heard, and saw very passionately and intensely. One day we were shooting a transgender woman for the website, and I felt so moved by her beauty, her eloquence, her strength that I cried. And later, when they posted the video on the website, I cried again, knowing that I was part of sharing these people's stories. It was truly monumental. During my stay, I found that I wasn't afraid to tell people how much they meant to me, how wonderful I thought they were, how inspired I was by them. I still carry this lack of restraint in telling people how much they mean to me. Why waste a moment? I find that it's this lack of restraint that brought the colors back into my life. Being yourself is not just about finding the people, the music, the passions that make you feel alive. It's about allowing yourself to experience the occasional, the inevitable tragedies and sadness that crop up along the way. I feared that the loss of my uncle and my dog would set me off track for good. Instead, they forced me to feel, to cry on the subway, to embrace everything that is within me. We as humans need to allow ourselves to fully experience every situation that we're in. If we don't allow ourselves to feel this, it only leads to confusion. It will never stop hurting. That's a fact that I'm willing to accept. It shouldn't, but I'm no longer afraid of tears.